Hey everyone, welcome into Dom Time tonight. Two laws, and I have not one but two founders with me. The two laws I want to talk about tonight. One is the biggie in Washington, the progress of the immigration reform bill that's passed the Senate and now goes to the House. And there's a tremendous amount of wrangling starting tomorrow, particularly on the Republican side in the House of Representatives. And here in New Jersey, something you may not have heard about as much, but is making its way through that is very big, and that is the so-called DREAM Act legislation. The main part of that would give the in-state tuition rate to people like our guest and others that are here and don't qualify for that, even though they've lived in New Jersey most of their life, if not all their life. Joining me, as I said tonight, to talk about these in the matter of immigration and to take your calls, on opposite sides, we have Matt Rooney, who opposes the DREAM Act. Matt is the founder of SaveJersey.com. Welcome back, Matt. Thanks for joining us. And Marisol Condi Hernandez. Marisol is one of the co-founders of the New Jersey DREAM Act Coalition. So Marisol, we'll start off with you, the New Jersey DREAM Act Coalition. I know the DREAM Act in New Jersey has moved out of the committee, has passed a full vote. Where does it stand right now, and what would it do in New Jersey?
So we like to call it tuition equity, just so that there is no confusion between the federal level DREAM Act, which is part of the bigger comprehensive immigration reform bill. So we're calling this tuition equity. There's a couple different versions floating in the state legislature. Mm-hmm. One did pass the Higher Education Committee in the Senate, and the other bill, part of the same thing, did pass the Budget Committee in the Assembly. Okay. There has been no floor vote.
And this means by equity, you're saying that because you were here in New Jersey all of your life, even though not a citizen or a child of citizens, you deserve equity. Matt, what's unfair about that?
Well, I think the New Jersey taxpayers who've been paying taxes all their life to fund these institutions through subsidies and through their property taxes in different ways would recognize that it's unfair, because you can't just come here and then skip to the front of the line when there's other folks who have basically paid for that privilege. And the reason
Marisol,
why...
the response to that? What's the response to the pay?
Well, I was going to let you finish, but I mean, their undocumented community in New Jersey are also part of those taxpayers. You know, just in 2010 alone have contributed $446 million.
How do you know that?
The Perryman Institute did a study and looked at the financial contributions that the undocumented per state in New Jersey specifically have contributed. If you were to deport everybody that's undocumented, which is about 500,000 in the state of New Jersey, the state would lose $42.2 billion.
I find that to be amazing.
I'm sorry, it's $24.2 billion.
How would we lose that? How would we lose that?
Because there are people who are members of the community that are spending money. And when you spend money, you pay rent, it all goes back to the state of New Jersey. I have income tax returns from my parents from 1989. I have pay stubs from 2003. So I'm certainly, along with every other New Jersey taxpayer that has lived here for a long time, contributed to the state financially.
All right, Matt, so they meet the test of the contribution. What do you say to that then?
Well, I mean, first of all, we can show you a study from some group that can tell you something. On the one hand, when people like me cite the statistic of 11 million illegal immigrants, we're told by the proponents of these types of bills, well, we don't know how many people are here. But they can always very specifically cite exactly how much that they're saying that is being contributed. Nobody doubts that immigrants contribute to this society. My family, if you go back a little bit, a couple generations, came over here from the Ukraine. I have a great-grandfather who came over here, lived on the back of a beer truck and handed out beer as a small boy. They came over legally. When was that? Yeah. That was the beginning of the last century.
Okay, there were not nearly as many rules that were regulating immigration the way that we have them now. So the big reason, I think one of the major reasons, why there's so many, 12 million, probably there were more before, but have self-deported or have been deported, have left, why we have such a big number now is because there is no easy or reasonable way for people who fulfill certain jobs in certain sectors to come in the right way.
Well, let me ask you then, would you be satisfied? And let's broaden it out to the big issue. I'm for legalization at that point to work, et cetera, but not citizenship. Why should people be given citizenship?
Why should people be given citizenship? That would be like freeing the slaves and not making them American citizens.
But you just said, Marisol, that the idea of work and we would need these people, et cetera. Right. How about all the other people that are not jumping the line to come here?
Well,
They're not
the people
getting
who are not jumping the line are people who are favored by the visa system that we have now by immigration law, which hands out visas for high-skilled labor. But there's this unspoken need to have low-skilled labor, low-paying jobs in the United States in order to make our crops more financially accessible for all of us. I mean, for the very same economic reasons that we outsource processing, manufacturing,
But my
tech
point is there are
jobs.
people from all over the world that want to come here. If we had that kind of mass migration again, that wouldn't be supportable. So why citizenship? We get legalization, at least I do. Matt, are you in favor of legalization for work?
No, I'm not in favor of legalization. One of the biggest problems I have with the proponents of this argument is it's almost as if history began yesterday. We tried something a lot like this back in 1986. At that time, when Ronald Reagan, a Republican, signed an immigration reform bill, allowed very widespread amnesty. We had about 2.7 million people at the time that fit that category. Today we have likely over 11 million. It doesn't work. Every time we create a magnet that gives people an incentive to break the law and do it the wrong way, all we do is get more of it.
But it's not a magnet. It's every time. And then if you want to consider history, every time you have more restrictive immigration policies, people come and they stay. So you have, over 60% of people that are here without status, like my family. It's not like we came here yesterday. We've been here for 25 years. And there has been no avenue by which we can adjust our status, which is why there's a
Well, there
need
is.
for
I mean, you can
pathway
go
citizenship.
back to the country of origin and start as everybody else would.
If I were to go back to Mexico, if I had a way to adjust my status, I would in fact have to wait for over 25 years.
Matt?
Well, see, that's exactly the point, though. It isn't about what's fair. It's about what this country stands for.
And what this country needs
And
right
what
now.
what this country needs is to remember what it's all about. We do not classify American citizens on the basis of the color of their skin or where they come from. It's about buying into a certain system of laws, the Constitution. That's what becoming an American means. And part of that is respecting the way this country was built. It's by people
who
coming
wrote the
here
Constitution
legally
came in
and
without
contributing
permission by
and
anybody
contributing.
and took over this land that was
Well, I mean,
belonged
I
to
can't
somebody else.
produce the royal charters that started the original colonies, but I don't think that's
But this entire
analogous.
continent, and I think this we can agree on, right? The entire continent of North and South America was fully inhabited by other people. And your ancestors came over, right? Probably because they've been here at least in the US longer than mine have. But they came over and called this territory their own, right? We're talking about now 12 million people who are fulfilling jobs that are needed by this American economy that are not being fulfilled domestically.
But see, are they
So
really? Are
you
they
want
really?
the cheap labor to save yourself money to drive profit.
Are they really fulfilling jobs that are needed, or what are they doing? I
Absolutely.
mean, now it's my time.
You can look
it's
at
now it's my
Arizona.
turn.
You
Now
can
it's
look
my
at
turn to
Alabama.
cite studies. There's been numerous studies by academic institutions that this influx of cheap labor is actually holding wages down.
But
All
if you were to
we'll talk
legalize
about
it,
that.
that
Let's-
would
let
make
me
it
intervene. We
more
have to take a
secure.
break here, but coming up, we'll get into that and we'll find out whose land is this anyway, the DREAM Act in New Jersey. And we want to take your calls for Matt and for Marisol here on Dom Time. That's coming straight ahead.